Moving into the second bracket of the tournament, we are going on to Salt Rock Colony. This is going to be Momo Uchiha versus Inspector Cot. 1400 versus 1600 rank, although they are closer than that would seem because of the way that the rounding goes on the rankings. This is going to be starting positions on the left and the right. Salt Rock Colony, of course, is a 6-player map that is a bit odd, shall we say. It tends to be played as a 2v2v2 because these slots are relatively evenly spaced and interact with each other in an even way, but when you play it in a 1 versus 1, you end up having to go around the civilian base in the center, where of course you do find 6 mass extractors, so that is worth getting a little bit later on, but you gotta kind of skirt around the outside edges. There's tons and tons of mass extractors at your disposal, so you need to be able to take those as quickly as you possibly can in order to begin the spammages of all the units. You are spaced out enough that tech is going to be an option, but you don't want to tech too much because you need the units to be able to hold the map control. Momo Uchiha is going for a few additional power generators around his original land factory. You will also notice that there isn't a hydro anywhere nearby your base, so you're going to have to go with a traditional power build, disregarding that excellently efficient construct. Then on the right-hand side, Inspector Cot is going for a second land factory after 5 P-gens, which seems to be a little bit short of the necessary supply, although it does look like he is going to be going just fine. You know what? Actually, no. I am mistaken about that because 5 P-gens is the typical amount for the second land factory, especially when you do not have enough mass to feed the entire thing. Armin Overclocked, appreciate the sub gift, man. Looks like we've got some tanks and scouts moving up to the north for Inspector Cot. I would be cautious about trying to reclaim all of these buildings. They don't have as much mass in them as you think they do. Hold on, I'm going to try to catch it. Boom. Oh no, these are 101. I thought that these were the less expensive buildings that you see on some of these maps that pop up, but that is a significant amount of mass to be able to pour back into your economy. So well done there grabbing that, and yes, looks like Momo Uchiha is picking up reclaim on the left-hand side. That shows you how much I play this map, having not even known about those wreckages. Okay. Looks like nobody is going for Air Factory quite yet, although this is a very odd spacing for Momo. I'm assuming that at some point there is going to be an energy storage that comes into being right there. Looks like Inspector Cot is going to be pushing out as many units as he can to the left, assuming that this is probably going to be the focused area of his opponent as well, and he is going to just try to reclaim up in the north and stick a couple tanks up there to delay anything coming around that way. I am kind of curious. I haven't seen enough games on this map to know whether or not Navy would be effective. With Seraphim being the dedicated faction in the tournament, I kind of doubt that it would make that much of a difference, although a cruiser could absolutely wreck face if you were able to get enough mass to sink into that. Although methinks that if you do have the mass to sink into a T2 naval factory and a cruiser, you probably have enough mass to collapse your opponent in other ways. But if it were, say, a Cybern matchup, the Cybern frigates, and especially, good lord, the Cybern destroyers, would be a powerhouse on this map. The disadvantage being that it is so small, you could probably build enough Zui spam or hover tanks to counter the Navy to a certain degree, but I think that's probably a player's worst nightmare, is seeing a Salem pop up right near their base and start eliminating all of their lovely mass extractors. Moving to the north, it looks like Momo is going to have a slight upper hand on tank numbers, while in the south, Inspector Cot is going to be pretty much free to wipe this entire expansion due to there not being enough units in the area, as they are, of course, all up north. Inspector Cot has got 4 land factories online with an air factory that has just pumped out a bomber. On the left side, we've got 4 land factories with an air factory coming into being. Momo doing a very, very odd build there with his power. He's overflowing 26 power and going to don't overflow, please don't overflow, please do not overflow. And Nope, he committed the mortal sin of Supcom. How can we ever forgive him? Although it looks like his opponent is going to do the same thing. Oh, nope. Yes. Oh, it's so close. Okay, he's overflowing. All right, they've both done it. It's an equal matchup. We're fine. Supcom, the only game where you can choose to focus on economic potential instead of the actual tanks fighting it out. Looks like Momo is finally going to run into a bit of opposition on the north. Neither player has a hold securely on the north side, but it looks like Momo is going to start building some of these mass extractors at least. This would be a lovely bomb target over on the left-hand flank. If you dropped on both of those engineers, it would be quite a significant amount of time before they could be replaced, and that stuff could be rebuilt. Let's go ahead and take a look at the economy in a serious manner. And I do speak somewhat facetiously about the whole mass overflow thing, because 1700 versus 1200 heavy reclaim advantage to Inspector Cott. The going assumption should be, if I can't have that mass, then no one can. And if you're reclaiming, especially when you're very far away from your base, it is better to reclaim those things and to overflow the mass to prevent your opponent from getting said mass than it is to just leave it there untaken advantage of and then potentially lose map control later and have all of that come back to bite you. Salt Rock Colony has got a pretty insane amount of reclaim on it. All of these rocks around here are going to be worth 5 mass each. Inspector Cott making a huge play to the north to try and gain control of the entire map. He's now running about 60% map control, and I think he'll be able to take the rest as well. Looks like Momo Uchiha is struggling a bit to get enough things online to actually contest the map. Meanwhile, Inspector has brought online his 7th land factory and is just powering away at P-Gens in order to get the power he needs to get some good, solid upgrades. So when you see 7 land factories versus 4 land factories, you know there's probably going to be a problem. And it's not that Momo can't run more factories, because he does have tons of unexploited reclaim here, all in his core base as well as out towards the front. He's just not building the build power. He's gotten a T2 mass extractor instead, so he's going for economic upgrades while his opponent is both scaling eco and build power. Momo is just going to get swept. It may take 6 or 7 minutes to get there, but I foresee this ending very badly indeed. Yeah, Heaven's tutorials are definitely more up to date than mine. Mine generally hold true, but some of the numbers are wrong. Or just play the game and watch your own replays. That also works. I think that we're just going to have to watch the slow and inevitable collapse of Momo here, because I think that he made a critical error in not building enough land factories. And now it's just going to be a very slow grind, losing more and more map control as time goes on. He is holding a lot of mass in storage. He has enough in storage just to drop 2 more land factories. And then he's got more than enough reclaim to feed those factories. Inspector Cott is floating mass as well, but looking a bit more reasonable in the amount that he has in storage. That's actually a pretty dang good eco balance that he's got going on there. As far as tank numbers, let's actually get a count. This will be telling. So we've got 47 tanks, 18 artillery, versus 25 tanks, 28 artillery. A pretty significant land force advantage to the right side. It's not enough yet to completely obliterate Momo, but it is getting close, and of course with double the amount of land factories running, it will get closer all the time. Critical error not using Zuis in the middle early. Yes, also that, because Inspector Cott is getting those additional mass extractors and the reclaim from the center, which is going to spell... that is actually 203 mass in that wreck. These have way more mass than I thought they did. Way more mass. Momo, you better be getting an upgrade or something here. You've got idle engineers. You've got you've got factories that are not feeding units to the front. They're simply putting units down in your base. And now we've got 63 mass income versus 25. And almost 100% of that is in T1 mass extractors. We've got two, count them, two T2 mass extractors in the base. And a T2 land factory is online. I think Momo may have just not practiced this map enough, something like that. I don't know. Oh, dirty, dirty. Inspector Cott is pushing T1 artillery on the water around the backside of the base. That is going to eliminate the energy storage that Momo works so hard to get, and it's also going to kill his single solitary T2 mass extractor, further hampering this eco that is just struggling along at 27 to 71. And there she blows. 21 to 71 on that count. Ouch. Tau Noob, I may have finally found someone I can 1v1. This is bad. What on earth is this nonsense? Okay, so Inspector Cott is building a wall assemblage here. I know exactly what he's doing with this. Okay, so what this does is this creates an absolute cluster for the pathfinding AI. But it does not prevent the units from coming through it. So if you take these tanks and you place a move order over here, then the tanks will move through the wall sections instead of trying to go around. However, they will get absolutely shreked by the point events here as they get stalled trying to move through the walls. That's a lot of mass to dump into wall sections, but hey, at this point when he's got nearly 80 income, he can definitely afford it. And that is a pretty freaking cool setup. I did not give him enough credit at the beginning of that. If Cott loses this, says Pico, I don't think it's possible for him to lose this. And now that I've said that, he will get tack sniped. Or some such thing. Looks like Momo is going for T2 on the ACU. There's not actually any TMD over here, and I don't see a T2 engineer. Although, we do have engineers moving out to the water, so we're probably going to see a naval factory soon. What would be kind of hilarious is a double tack missile that was able to take out the T2 HQ, and then just start tack missiling all of the T2 mass extractors. That could potentially turn this around, but first you have to survive the Ilshivas that are coming crashing down on the front line. That, I feel like, is going to be a bad time. We've got 2 additional T2 mass extractors on that edge, and the Ilshis are walking through the T1 point events, so that is fantastic. We've got T2 done on the ACU, although it is now starting for Inspector Cott as well, and that ACU will be able to move in and overcharge its way through the Ilshis, or at least it would if there was an energy storage, but I don't think... Oh, nope, there it is, right there. Got rebuilt. Something wise to do is to build 2 E-storages in separate locations. That way, if your base gets raided, you don't automatically get wiped because you no longer have E-storage and you can't overcharge. Did you build... Oh dear. That is a rather poor location for a point events, if I'm being honest. Also, the ACU is now away from the base, which is going to get hammered by these Ilshivas. I think this is about to end quite badly indeed. There's the E-storage. Focus fire it. Kill it. There's a lot of mass in that building. Okay, don't kill it now, because you're standing next to it. Okay, well, there went a couple of Ilshis to the artillery fire as it stood still. Looks like the ACU is pulling back into the base, but now the Ilshis are running very quickly indeed from a multitude of factories, and that is going to be GG. Unless Inspector Cott somehow manages to do something more stupid than anything I have ever done combined. Oh, he's actually building flak. So trying to anticipate the air snipages. Alright, I think that we can safely conclude that a couple minutes in the future, Momo has lost the game, and therefore I feel rather comfortable closing this game since it did freeze. Well played to both of these guys, especially Inspector Cott getting his game off the ground in a spectacular fashion. And good luck to Momo in the losers bracket. Welcome to the losers bracket. We're watching a game between Bravo and Dro, 1600 versus 1800, so relatively closely ranked. The map is Cobalt Valley, which some of you may be familiar with and may be regretting even seeing, because this can be quite a brutal place to play on the ladder. I don't know why these people are paused, and apparently they're still paused in the future. So let's talk a little bit about the builds. Bravo is going for Land Factory, a couple of mass extractors after a power generator, and then walking forward to get the fourth mass extractor before walking to the hydro. This is a build that we saw from Keyser twice on the Crimson Feud, and this is exactly what you need when your hydro is a little ways away, because by the time you walk over there to assist it, you are better off having this power generator in advance. And I think we'll probably see something relatively similar from Dro. Dro is actually going for 2 power generators and then walking forward to the hydro and getting his other mass extractors with the ACU as well. So that's about the cutoff point. If your hydro is that far away, you should not go for it without building power generators first. Good rule of thumb. Good. We've all improved our build orders. Dro is... I do take issue with his power generator placement because, one, this is off kilter and he's not getting any adjacency for the mass extractor, and this kind of hurts my head because symmetrical. But if you build those 2 power generators over here, you're able to get adjacency for your mass extractor if the game goes on long enough to get a T2 max upgrade. And then you've also fixed your issues with bad base placement, because anybody who does this is a horribly disorganized person, and I kind of hate them a little bit. Just a tad, though. Hopefully Dro wins and can prove us all wrong and overcome the biases, but I have to hold it against him ever so slightly. Bravo is going to go for an air factory second, so we may be able to see a little bit of an early bomber rush. And on the left-hand flank, we've got a tank followed by a land scout moving towards Bravo's base. This engineer here is going to grab these couple of 75 reclaim rocks. Lovely sons of guns out there that are going to be able to boost up your early game. Of course, we do have all of these tree clumps out here, which are probably going to be broken by tanks running through. But if you're able to attack, move an engineer up into these tree clumps, or even some of the ones back in your base, 10 mass, 100 power per clump. Not a bad thing at all to get into your pocket. That tank is going to try to move all the way around to the rear. We do see a tank and scout pair counter from Dro moving over to the left-hand side to try and clip off any of these things that are coming to assault the rear. On the right-hand flank, we do have a single scout, but not any tanks. That's going to be 3 land factories to start for Dro. Quite the impressive build order as his ACU walks up towards the front. That's going to give him a pretty significant advantage over his opponent, who is just now starting the 3rd land factory, has not walked the ACU to the front, but does have an advantage in another area. He has an air factory that's got a bomber out already, followed by an interceptor. Of course, he has no way of knowing yet whether his opponent has gone for an air factory, but we do see Dro planning one right there. So this bomber will have a little bit of time to wreak havoc before it encounters a counter, but it is going to be on a limited timetable. Counting up the mass extractors here, we've got 4 in the core base with 5, 6, 7, 8 in your relatively secure expansions. So realistically speaking, we're only going to see 5 factories, maybe 6, and that's heavily depending on the reclaim and asking for a stall and assuming that you're going to get one of these expansions a little bit later on. Bravo is getting his secured on the left-hand flank quite a bit more quickly than Dro is. That's going to give him a rather significant mass advantage. And if you're wondering where I'm getting my numbers on that, you will notice that a land factory in operation should pull about 4 mass per tick, or 5 as it were, with that one. Why is... because it was building a land scout, that's why. And land scouts cost more mass. Well, they have a higher build rate. So their mass cost is more per tick as you're building them. But generally speaking, 1 mass extractor pair is going to run 1 land factory. So if you have your mass extractor count divided in half, that's the amount of factories you can run stably, and then you can get additional reclaim to boost up everything else that you want going on. That was a fair bit of word salad, but hopefully it made sense. Dro is getting 2 additional land factories up on the front line, putting him at a total of 5 with that air factory, just about the maximum that he can run, and that is going to give him a good advantage on T1 spam. Meanwhile, we have got, never mind, factory number 5 going down for Bravo as well, so that is going to be roughly equal for both of these players. Over on the left-hand flank, we've got a little bit of a problem as Bravo is streaming units into a clump, something that we discuss quite often here is a bad thing. That's going to leave Dro with quite a significant number of units free to come down and kill these mass extractors that have just been built down this way. The bad thing being, of course, that there is a point defense in the area. I don't think that there's any artillery in this mix. There are not, indeed. So those are going to run face first into the point defense and fail miserably, although there aren't any wall sections around that PD, so that does make its survival slightly less likely. Over on the right-hand side, Bravo, though inferior in the number of tanks at his disposal, is definitely doing just as much or more damage to the sidelines. He was able to kill off both of those mass extractors, knocking his opponent down to 16 mass per tick, as he slowly builds up enough units on the left to fully counter those oncoming from Dro. Dro finishing his 8th land factory in total, with more coming in the back. That's going to be 3, 6, 7, 8. Quite the ambitious son of a gun. And how is your mass holding? Quite well indeed, actually. You can see when he is not getting reclaim, he is going to minus 20 per tick, which is kind of a bad place to be, stalled for 100% of your mass income. But if you're able to sustain the reclaim, that is going to give you far more tanks than your opponent can possibly pull to his side. Bravo bringing the ACU back, picking up a little bit of reclaim from the trees in the area. Good on him. And it looks like more units are going to flow towards the center from Dro. This is where it becomes a bit of a poke and parry game, where a single mass extractor being lost here is going to cause a little bit of a stall in mass and cost a little time to rebuild, so that little advantage can be exponentially increased. Then we've got responses over on the right side. It looks like more tanks moving over that way to respond to the ACU in the vicinity. And Bravo is just poking everywhere he possibly can. Now he is moving up through the center here to try to draw these units back over across. And if all goes well, he'll be able to move this group over to the back of the base. Both of them pulling in together now. I don't think there's enough tanks in that area to be able to actually punch through into Dro's base, but dang it, he can try. No upgrades yet on either ACU or any planned. You'll notice that these guys are running 360 power and 260 power, so even if they wanted to, there's simply not enough energy to build and upgrade on the ACU. A lovely bit of micro on that engagement is going to leave Bravo in the lead. That is actually quite astounding, the way it was able to bring those units together in a clump versus the slightly more spread out units that Dro had at his disposal. And that's going to give him a bit of a tank advantage, enough to potentially knock out another mass extractor in the back, slowly whittling away at the economy for his opponent. But no, that's just going to cost some tanks, cost some time. You'll see he's moving over to the left to draw all of those units away as he moves into the base from the right flank. This is a complete outmaneuvering of Dro by Bravo. This is going to cost Dro a significant portion of his base, and I think that is going to be... that might actually be GG. Bravo, move in! Move in now! You gotta get in there! Alright, they're headed in. The ACU is moving over to the right flank. More units coming in from Dro on the right-hand side, but I think it is going to be far too little and too late. But Hero Bomber coming in, taking out 2 tanks in one pass, and then hopefully dealing a bit more damage before it gets knocked down. I don't think there's any interceptors in the area, no. Bravo is able to secure complete air control right here if he wishes. He has got triple the number of interceptors, more than capable of handling this, but he simply isn't bringing his air into the game. 2 mass extractors down, possibly going to get a third as yet another bomb comes in. Friendly firing an engineer and a tank in order to take out 2 enemy tanks. I'm not sure that that was a good trade, but it is done now. Dro facing off versus a number of units and Bravo's ACU. I think he's probably doomed to failure as far as that goes. Simply does not have the unit count to back his ACU up, but look at this. The pincer. He's getting reclaim in his base that is fueling the massive amount of factories that he has, and he's now pulling in units front and back on Bravo's ACU. This might actually be a mutual. Bravo had this one won, and I think he may have just thrown it all away. 5,000 HP versus 6,000 HP. He may not be able to even pull a draw anymore. He's got to turn his focus onto that ACU. Oh my goodness. That should not have ended that way. Bravo actually getting shot down. Dro taking the win. And that is freaking GG. That, I think, was 100% due to the misstep by the commander. Bravo had double the eco, superior maneuvering, except for that ACU, and the unit count advantage. And he simply didn't have his ACU in the right place. This is something that I feel like plagues a lot of people, and I have definitely done this in a ladder game where I just had my ACU in an absolutely incredibly stupid position, and it ended up costing me the game. It's a shame to see in a tournament such as this, but hopefully everyone can take away a lesson from it in watching where your ACU is and whether or not there are units pincering. That is going to be it for this game. Well played, both of you, and Dro coming out lucky for the win on that one. That is an elimination for Bravo from the tournament. That is going to wrap everything up for this video, guys. If you enjoyed it, feel free to drop a like and share it with someone. If you want to support the channel, catch the streams, or join the Discord, check out the links in the description. Thank you all for being at least partially insane, and I will see you in the next one.